I could easily see someone having jumped ship at this point. Someone with a little bit less patience, someone with a little bit less tolerance for the art of build up. Um, I guess it could be compared to whether or not you like Peter Jackson's King Kong. Although, on the other hand, I'm not really sure that is a fair comparison because I'm not too crazy about Peter Jackson's King Kong, but I think it's for different reasons than other people. Um, Now, I am, of course, talking about the newest episode of The Strain. Now, once again, it is choosing to focus on these people before the plague actually happens, before the vampire plague. Now, now again, like I said, some people might be a little put off by it because the build up itself isn't really done poorly. It's not really done with any kind of annoying characters or anything, but for something called The Strain, for something that's billed as this very intense, very scary vampire drama, and for something that keeps, like I said, building up this eventual outbreak. Some people might be a little disappointed that this latest episode, once again, focuses on more build-up and a steady, tiny advancement in coming to full fruition. Okay, in this episode, Dr. Goodweather teams up with Abraham, the David Bradley character, and he starts hunting down the names on the flight manifest because those are the people who are infected. And the reason for this is not necessarily because he is fully on board with Abraham as of yet, but mainly because he wants to capture these things on video and show his superiors so that they will greenlight a massive quarantine. Okay, and that is subsequently when him and Abraham part ways. And in the background, you have these infected who are steadily infecting others. For instance, the punk rocker is he kills a woman who comes in to see him, and Regina King calls someone to eliminate the evidence, and he kills that guy too, or he doesn't kill him, he sucks his blood. So in the midst of that, we also get some perspective on the character of Abraham and how he first encountered these creatures in 1944 Poland in a concentration camp. So finally getting some insight into the background of this character. So overall, I liked this episode okay. It's not really the best, but it's not really the worst either. I know that's kind of a bold statement to say, considering this is only about the 5th or 6th episode of this show. But yeah, a lot of what I've said about the previous episodes and what they've done well and what they haven't done well still holds true here. Because, like I said, the acting is still very good. Peter Weller's direction I thought was pretty good. That's the biggest surprise for me, is that I actually didn't know Peter Weller was going to direct this episode. So during the opening credits, when it said directed by Peter Weller, and I was like, oh, okay, this should be interesting. And yeah, he did a competent job. I don't really know how he would do in directing a movie, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, Corey Stoll, Sean Astin, Richard Sammel, David Bradley, Mia Maestro, all these guys still do a pretty good job. And even some of the minor characters like Regina King and Leslie Hope, they make the most of their parts. And by the way, one of the 4 survivors, when she's sick in bed, and her kids bring her breakfast in bed, and she's kind of looking at him, and I said, she's gonna eat those kids. It may not be during this episode, but she's gonna eat those kids, or at least that's what me and my maybe it's just because I have a really sick sense of humor that I'm kind of hoping for that to happen. Maybe it'll be a nice bit of gallows humor or demented glee that Guillermo del Toro seems to delight in. But there were some problems with this episode that weren't necessarily present in others. First of all, I appreciate that we are getting some, like I said, added insight into the character of Abraham. However, they do this via flashback, and up until this point, flashbacks have not really been present on the show. The difference between this and something like Arrow is that Arrow included flashbacks from the very beginning and has continued to do so up to this day. This show has been totally devoid of any kind of flashbacks or any narrative devices of that kind up to this point. So all of a sudden introducing this storytelling device into this episode, and pretty abruptly too, and not necessarily tying it in. Well, I can't really say not tying it in because they do this. They do show this flashback when Abraham is explaining to Ephraim about the history of the Strigoi, which is Romanian for vampire, and who the master is, and blah blah blah. So it is appropriate in that sense, but just from a sheer filmmaking perspective, just from a sheer storytelling perspective, it just seemed to stand out a lot from like I said, previous episodes, which did not have any flashbacks. So I think they could have found a way to better transition into that. Or again, maybe show flashbacks of other characters in previous episodes. Maybe show flashbacks of Ephraim and his family. I don't know, something to make for a better transition. And also, that's really the only problem. But just a minor gripe I have. I think this show would be more frightening if the vampires were silent. If they didn't really make these kind of gurgling sounds. The gurgling sounds are good, except I think, and this is speaking specifically of the Master, because we see more of the Master here, who's this big Grim Reaper type guy. In the flashbacks, he's kind of sneaking around the concentration camp during nighttime, and he's sucking the blood of the Jewish prisoners. Okay, so he's making all these noises. He's basically, I don't really know how many friends I'm going to gain by making this reference, but he sounds like the Razak from Aragon, the Aragon movie. I have never actually read the book, but this very almost cockroachy sound, this insect-like sound where it's nearly always noisy. It's difficult to describe, but when I watch this guy, I'm thinking, the sound effects that they're going for do work and do fit with the show for the most part. I mean, the show is just that, does have that splash of demented Guillermo del Toro style, and it is very dark and at some points even silly. But the thing is, I think it would be in their best interests to keep this big Grim Reaper guy, the Master, silent. I think if he was just kind of floating around and kind of slithering around just without any sound, I think it would be much more effective. However, like I said, that may just be a matter of personal taste. Overall, this episode still was very accomplished. I thought it was actually better paced than some of the episodes we've seen. And yeah, like I said, really the only issues that I had with it were, again, some of the abruptcy of the flashbacks, and once again, the fact that they're still building this up. Story of this whole show, actually, next episode is going to get really awesome. We'll see.